Okay, hello there. I'm still updating Visual Studio in the background. Oh, cool. Thanks. Kilotundant? I'm just looking at the beginning of it and how I would make it differently now. It doesn't mean that I'm necessarily changing the playlist or anything. Okay, hello there. Alright, so let's see here. Visual Studio is still updating in the background, but I'll just leave that. Let's get started here. So what I'm going to be doing is looking at the Zelda tutorial from the very, very beginning. My main goal is to rework this for a Udemy tutorial. But I kind of want to go over everything first, and since I need to go over it anyway, I might as well do it on on stream. Hello, Max. Hello, Soma. Hello, person whose name is in Cyrillic. Sorry, I can't read that. Hello, 1 Second Riddles, and hello, Anno. Kilotundant. Okay, good to know. All right, so I basically have this kind of broken down into sections. So the first section would be an intro section where you find the tools, getting to know Unity, Unity's hotkeys, how Unity executes scripts, the component pattern, solid, and importing assets. And then today we're going to be looking mostly at the character stuff, because itch.io, it's created by this guy named Sean B.A. or Seanba. And the most recent version was actually just updated earlier today, so that's kind of awesome. Super Tile to Unity is really good because it imports stuff as actual tile maps, and it creates a what is that called? That thing where all the assets are packed together. Whatever. It creates one of those for everything so that there's no more lines or weird issues like that, and it's easier to make animated tiles. Your name is Evgeny. Did I say that correctly? Evgeny? You're Russian. All right, well, welcome. All right, so we're going to be using this, and we're going to be using tiled, and we're going to be using Unity 2019.1. I know 2019.2 just came out this morning, but I didn't want to delay the stream anymore to download that, so we're going to be using 2019.1 point whatever version I have, 2019.1.9. All right, so actually one more thing here. There's going to be a lot of silence, so I might as well turn on some background music. Yes, this stream is going to be on my channel. So if you want to come back to this later or watch it at some other point in the future, you sure can. I'm going to try not to move too terribly fast, but if I do, I think it would be good to keep this on my channel so that people can come back and look at it. I open the pretzel. There we go. So yeah, if you guys want to come back and watch this later, you can. If you want to just leave it on and come watch it again later, you can. Any of that is fine. Okay, is that music too loud? It's hard to tell in my headphones because it sounds like it's way too loud. I'm going to put it at -25, I think. There we go. Yeah, no worries, Evgeny. All right, so let's create our new project here. Oh no, that's not what I meant to do. New 2019.1.9. All right, so this is going to be Udemy test. It's going to be in 2D. I don't want it in my GitHub folder. I want it in my projects folder. Yeah. Okay. Let's create this. Like I said, if the music's too loud, somebody let me know. That is weird. Okay, well, thank you, Pretzel. All right, thanks, Luigi. I appreciate that. Okay, so now we're just waiting for Unity to load. All right, if you guys have questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. Or if you just want to say hi or just hang out, that's totally fine too. Okay, that's almost done. So, Alex, good question. The way that I made things is mostly fine. The game itself is what I'm trying to rework. I'd like to make this for like a Udemy series. So I would like to go back to the beginning and use some of the things that I'm refactoring for now from the beginning, so that rather than having the health be in the player movement script like I did at the beginning, I'd have it be its own thing. The other thing that kind of bugs me about the series right now is everything is kind of scattered around. I'd like it to be almost like a set of separate tutorials. Like one tutorial series could be for Intro to Unity, and it would cover, you know, how to download Unity, how to get around Unity, what Unity does, stuff like that. And then another whole series would be just on the player movement, player UI, stuff like that. And then another whole series would be on the world, and another whole series would be on enemies and stuff like that. Max Pavlov, I mean, yeah. If you've watched my Match 3 tutorial, creating a procedural generated world is very, very similar to doing something like that. You would create a two-dimensional array and then place things randomly in that two-dimensional array. And then you would use, I forget what it's called. It's similar to something in math called the game of life, where you decide what should go next to other things based on where things are. Unless you're talking about rooms, in which case it depends on what kind of rooms you want to make. Like for a dungeon, Isaac does it differently than some other things. Kilotundant, SuperTiled is a way to import maps from Tiled into Unity. SuperTiled to Unity makes Unity see the tiled files the way that Tiled sees them, so that there's, when you open up Unity with that add-on, everything that you were working on in Tiled comes over to Unity exactly as it was, instead of making it its own object and then importing that object, if that makes any sense. Alex B, if you have any questions, let me know. I don't know. That's my plan, Alex, yeah, is to do rework tutorials from the beginning and put those on Udemy, and then work from there. I'd still like the project itself to be open source, so I think I'm going to keep putting this in my GitHub folder when it's in a good state to be done that way. All right, so here we go. First thing I'm going to do is rework this. So I'm going to have my game be, instead of 4x3, I'm going to put it in 16x9. And I'm going to rework my folder structure. So let's create a folder for Tiled is something separate, yeah. So it is an app that you can also download from itch.io. So if you go here, this is itch.io, and look for Tiled. It's a free map editor. Right here. You can also get it at mapeditor.org. The reason I like Tiled is there's a lot of stuff that you can do in Unity's tile maps, but you need to download the 2D extras in order to do that, like animated tiles or rule tiles. And in Tiled itself, it's way, way, way easier to do a rule tile or an animated tile. And the layer system is much more, I think, intuitive and easy to use. So yeah, tiled is something separate, and I'll be using that today too. Okay, so I've got a folder for art. This is a new way of doing folders that Nathan at GDQuest had shown me, and I think it's actually better than the way I was doing things. I'm going to call this SRC. Alex B, no worries. I'll put up like coupons and stuff when I actually get closer to making it. I haven't made any of the videos for it yet, as you can tell, which is why I'm doing this right now. And when I actually do post it, I'll put a coupon code or something up on my channel. I don't want it to be super expensive. I don't want there to be a huge barrier, but I don't know. Okay, so this SRC is going to be for our script. Hey there, VLTNT, how are you? Regarding procedural map generation, are you looking at a Spelunky-like method or more classically random algorithm? I'm not looking at doing random generation personally. Somebody had asked previously in the chat about doing, yeah, Max had asked about doing procedural generation. I'm not going to do that. You could do procedural generation with the dungeon itself, and there's a few pretty good tutorials on that. Blackthorn Prod has a super simple one, and then he has a more in-depth series, and then Chili has a an Isaac-like procedural generation. But personally, I mean, I don't know. I like roguelike games, but I don't know. I don't necessarily have a desire to make one myself. Okay, so for the art, we're going to be using assets from Superpowers. So 2D. These are Kenny assets and stuff that I have. Superpowers, there we go. And these can be found on itch.io as well. If you just go to itch.io and search for... Yeah, I mean, honestly, it depends. So, like, Spelunky uses... it's not... They don't use the Game of Life. They use something else. There's a specific name for it, and I can't remember what it is. It's... I forget what it's called. Hello, the professor. How are you? Your next video is about Zelda tutorials we'll work with. So, music for fun. What are you having issues with working with 2017 and 2018? Music for Fun asks, are your next videos going to work with 2017 or 2018? I should remember to be saying what people are asking, whose questions I'm answering, for people who watch this in the future. And Retronaut is right. Retronaut says there's not a Udemy subscription. You purchase them individually for lifetime access. And Kilotundant asks, do I use tiled in my Zelda tutorial? I do. However, I end up going back to just using the Unity tile map. Superpowers. So the Superpowers assets I'm using are from here. So the specific ones, so you can find them on itch.io if you just search for Superpowers. They're really quality assets and pretty extensive for what we're doing. I'm going to be using the Ninja Adventure Pack. So I'm going to bring that in here and let that come in. Okay. If the music's too loud or too quiet, let me know. Okay. Hello, dude guy, how are you? Hello, Vlad, how are you? Hello, Alice. Oh wait, I think I want to change something really quickly because I think, yeah, I'm using the wrong one. I'm going to change this to this. Might break stuff. Okay, cool, it didn't. You should start seeing the chat like right there though. Okay, so Retronaut, anyone interested in ProcGen maps should probably check out the Spelunky book. TLDR, it involves randomly placing pre-made map chunks. Yeah, Spelunky, the way Spelunky does it is pretty cool. Alice says, do you plan on keeping this tutorial series or actually making your own game out of it and release it, sell it? Alice, I'm planning on reworking this so that I can make a video series for Udemy. It's going to do the exact same things as the YouTube series I'm doing right now. It's just I want to rebuild it from the ground up, knowing what mistakes I made to begin with. The main things I want to do in this live stream VLTNT are I want to get a character controller working and start doing stuff with the character. Vlad, good to hear you're fine. Retronaut continues his comment from before. This creates a nice combination of randomness and handcrafted map design. Curious about your PC specific hardware. Juan Pablo asks about my PC specifically. My PC is very, very old. It has an i7, I want to say like a second or third generation i7. I have 32 gigs of RAM that I cobbled together. None of it matches. And I have a GeForce GTX 970. So, yeah. Alexander Higgins asks, will I still be doing Zelda refactoring for the enemies? Yes, I absolutely will. So still in the Zelda series. So coming up next in the Zelda series on Friday, there's going to be a video on fixing the pickups. And then on Saturday, we're going to start looking at how to fix everything else to make sure that everything works with one another. And I'm sure I'm going to mispronounce this. Do says hi. I say hi back. All right, so the Ninja Adventure stuff. You're from Belarus, Vlad. Nice to see you. Yes, i7 and old. All right, so I think if I click here, is it manage where you guys can actually see the hardware, or is it properties? No, it's not manage. It must be properties. Okay, so there we go. i7 2600, 3.4 gigahertz. So it's super old. 24 gigs, sorry, not 32. And like I said, I've got a GeForce GTX 970 that's like 4 or 5 years old. There is a schedule for the Zelda videos, Vlad. Let me get a link for that right now. So I made an actual Google Calendar. I don't know why it took me so long to do this, but you can see my streaming and video calendar. I have a link for. This is my personal calendar too. Streaming and video calendar. Let me actually get the shareable link. Copy, and I'll put that in the video description here if I can. Reworking the Zelda series. Here we go. Calendar link. Yeah, Retronaut. I've had this specific Core i7 for 8 years. I think I built this PC in the fall of 2011. So, and Big White Shotgun says, "Hi, just popped in to say thank you, Mr. Taff Creates, for your Zelda series. Haven't given up on becoming a game dev. Please continue your amazing work. Thank you so much." How do you switch over out placeholder textures? Sean Harrick, I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. All right, so back in here. Ninja Adventure characters. Let's see, there was one or two I specifically liked. I like this dude. I really like that dude. This one reminds me of Shovel Knight. I'm looking down here in the corner if you guys couldn't see that. This one reminds me of Earthbound. let's do either the one that looks like Naruto without a face or Ice Climber. Let's do Naruto without a face. So we need to make this multiple, 16 pixels per unit, no filter, max size 128, no compression. All right, and now let's open our sprite editor and let's slice by cell count. 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 columns and 7 rows. And slice. Cool. Let's apply that. Okay, Sean, you're not spamming. I just didn't know what you meant. You don't have to go. Hello, Mr. Greedy. I'm a Big White Shogun says, I'm a pixel artist myself, so if you find yourself in need of some sprites. Oh, hey, no worries. I always like art. All right, so let's open this dude here. Let's grab this one, pull it into the world, and I'm going to rename this as character. So I'd like to make it so that everything is a component, and I'd like to keep as few scripts on each object as possible. So this is going to be player, and let's see. So the rigid body, because I want to use rigid body physics for the player, I'm going to add it to here since this is the main. We'll leave this dynamic. Gravity scale is 0. Collision detection is continuous. Sleeping mode is never sleep. We want to extrapolate. Freeze the Z position. Let's add a collider here for the physics as well. And we'll make this, let's go 0.75 on X. And let's go 0.25 4 on Y, and then let's move it down. Negative 0.3. There we go. That's still maybe a bit too tall, so let's do 0.25 still. 0.4. Let's go 3. There we go. Orkun, I mean, yeah, sure. The assets you can find on itch.io. Let me go back here. They're if you go to itch.io and search for superpowers, they're all here. They're not mine. They're Creative Commons 0 though, so you can use them for whatever you want to. Vlad asks if I am registered on Instagram. I do have a personal Instagram account. I do not have one for Mr. Taft Creates. Maybe I should make one. Okay, so this is our player's physics. Let's make a child object for the hitbox. Hitbox. This is one of the things I didn't like that I think I fixed later, was that the hitbox was part of this. So you had these two colliders on the same object. Let's make the hitbox its own object here. Let's make the size 0.75. 0.75, and let's move this down a little bit. A little bit bigger. There we go. Wait, am I restarting? Emo Animator Emo anime lover. I'm not restarting. No, I'm restructuring from the beginning to make a Udemy version of the YouTube series. But everything I'm doing today will eventually be in the YouTube one after the refactor. Alice says, seeing that you use free assets, did you ever think about making them yourself? Absolutely, I have. In fact, I've made my own assets for all of my projects that I put out there, with the exception of one. I used Kenny assets for one project I put out. But yeah, I mean, I just like having things be as open as possible. Hello, Eric. Retronaut, yes, the gap issue gets solved late, like part 20, I think. And yes, I do settle on using the Unity tile map in the main series. Okay, so let's use some inheritance here so that we don't have to double stuff up. So we're going to create a folder for generic components. So Rodrigo asks, Classic Zelda has a grid-based movement and logic. Are you going to make that? So Classic Zelda and the original Pokemon games all do, but I'm not going to make that. If you look at, even like Final Fantasy VI has a grid-based movement system, but you can't tell. I don't think it needs to be grid-based, personally. Work in the stream will be available later. To Blues Metal, Kenny does indeed do some great work. Yes, it is indeed hard, Alice, making your own assets. Thank you, Ahmed. You have fun too. Okay, so generic components. Let's create a movement component. Okay, can you guys hear me again now? Am I backlit? Because it doesn't look like I am. Okay, there we go. I'm live again. All right, sorry about that. Visual Studio said it needed to restart, and I thought it needed to restart Visual Studio, but no, it needed to restart my computer. So, all right, here we go. It's pretty sure nothing I did saved. All right. So Ed Zvon says, greetings, Mr. Taft. I just want to thank you for making the Zelda-like game series. Taught me a lot about 2D game with Unity. Made a simple maze game with it. Congratulations. Good job. That's awesome. Anytime anybody makes something, it's awesome. It's not easy. Not everybody understands how difficult it can be sometimes, especially when you're starting from scratch. Alright, so hopefully this won't take so long to start up. While we're doing that, again, apologies for dropping the stream. I should have read the restart button before I pushed it, but there's nothing I could have done because I couldn't have run Visual Studio without it, and so, yeah, anyway. Hello, Big White Shogun. Alright. Big White Shogun, that's actually pretty awesome. Good job for you. No shame in that at all. Managing to finish anything during the Ludum Dare, I think, is a pretty huge achievement. Or Ludum Dare, however it's pronounced. I always say Ludum Dare. Aw, well, that's good to hear. Keep at it, man. You gotta be willing to keep going. Alright, so everything I did, it restarted because I didn't save the scene, so let's go here. One thing man, do I hate this standard Unity color. Let's make our background just that gray. That's better. Oh, you're the one who did it, Big White Shogun. I didn't do anything. Alright, so let's go. Pretty sure I'm gonna need to do everything I was doing before. That's okay. Done it 8 million times before. Not too bad. Oh, cool. It saved all that. Yeah, it saved that too. Awesome. Alright, so this is gonna be our player. Yeah, Retronaut, the Sprite Atlas is how I eventually fixed it. That little gap that Big White Shogun suggests is something I did at some point in the video series, and it's fine for a little while, but if your map is very large, like say it's, I don't know, 1,000 tiles wide, that gap becomes bigger the larger the map is. So honestly, if you search, like just Google search that issue, our Unity sprites, tiles or lines between tiles, you'll find like 8 million different solutions. Yeah, no worries, RB. I'll have this archived, so you can check it out later. Okay, so back to what I was doing here. We're gonna add a rigid body 2D. Give it 0 gravity. Collision detection is continuous. Never sleeps. No, I don't want to interpolate. I don't want to extrapolate. And freeze the Z position. And then let's add our physics collider. So this is going to be, let's get a little bit bigger than that. Let's go. And let's move this down. There we go. Retronaut says that he thinks it's Ludum Dare too, so that's good. Rodrigo says, do you know how to make a pixel perfect camera player movement? So the pixel perfect camera is easier than the player movement part. Unity has a pixel perfect camera component now. If you go to the package manager, as soon as this loads all the packages, maybe it's a preview package. Package manager. I thought they did anyway. Oh, there it is, 2D Pixel Perfect. So here's a Pixel Perfect camera right here. In my experience, almost nobody notices when the pixels are a little bit warped. But I mean, this camera, if you just install it and then attach it to your main camera, that's a Pixel Perfect camera. As far as Pixel Perfect movement goes, so when I first made this Zelda series, I was obsessed with making sure that it was going to be pixel perfect. And so what it comes down to is this character here. Go away. This character here is 16 pixels wide. which means that when it moves, you want to make sure that it's only ever moving 1/16 of a Unity unit every time it moves. So you would need to have a rounding function there that rounds the X and the Y position to be to the nearest closest 1/16, which for what you get out of it, I think is more complex than it should be. Hello, Vanessy. If it's Polish, I don't know if it is dare or dare. Alright, so back here to our player. Let's make a separate object for the hitbox so that we don't have those colliders together. And this is going to have box collider 2D. And I'm just going to edit this one manually really quickly here. So let's keep this 0 and 0. And then this is going to be 0.7, 0.8. And let's move this down 0.1. Alright, cool. So we got our player, we got our hitbox. Now let's make a movement component. So create empty. I'm going to call this movement. I'm also, in my SRC, I've got generic components and I've got a movement script. I'm going to open that up in Visual Studio. Kilotundant, your package manager is empty. If you restart Unity, that might help it. I've had my package manager be empty before, and when I restarted, that fixed it, but I don't know for sure. Okay, as interested as I am to know which one it's supposed to be, I honestly think it's not a super interesting argument to talk about whether it should be dare or dare. I think if you say ludum dare, everybody knows. Super low, pixel perfect. So it's hard to notice, but if you're running Unity in not pixel perfect, so like here, while I'm waiting for VS to start up, it can make it so that not every pixel is the same size. And if you're looking for it, you can see it, and it looks weird once you see it. It's one of those things that once you see it, it's hard to unsee. So like here, every one of these pixels, see, you can even see it here. This pixel on the left isn't exactly the same size as the one on the right. And if I hit play, it should get worse as I change the size of the screen, because Unity tries to do some rounding to it, because Unity isn't a 2D engine. It's, even when you're running it in 2D like this, it's actually doing 3D calculations. And those calculations make it so that it rounds. Okay, see that? See how the size of the characters, watch the character's eyes are the things that are 1 pixel wide. Watch how as I change the size of my display here, how it changes. Pixel perfect makes it so that that doesn't happen. 1 pixel is always 1 pixel. Okay, so Visual Studio, I've got my movement. This is from mono behavior. Let's see, we're gonna need to make sure that we have a rigid body, so serialize field. My rigid body. And we should also have, I don't think we need to have a speed here. This isn't going to need a void or an update or a start. Instead, we'll just have a public void. Nope, not on Animator, move. And this is going to need to know a vector upon which it should move. Call this motion, or actually we'll call it direction. And it needs to know a magnitude. And then we're going to do our velocity is equal to direction dot normalized times magnitude. Okay, so this is slightly different than how I was doing it, but it's going to have the same result. So this movement script is going to be put on enemies and the player and anything else that you need to move. You could even do projectiles. It's going to take a move variable here, or not move variable, it's going to have a move function that takes in a direction and a magnitude, and it's going to set the rigid body's velocity to be equal to the direction normalized times the magnitude, which will make sure that it's the same speed in every direction. Alright, so we're going to put the movement script on our player. Did I not save that? No, I did not. And once it compiles, we'll need to tell it what the rigid body is, and the rigid body will just be from the player. Cool. Now, this alone doesn't do anything, so I'm going to create a player version of that. So we're going to create a new folder for player script, create C# script, player movement, you have to download the packages kilotundent from the package manager. Pixel Perfect is in preview, so in order to see it, if you don't see it when you open up your package manager, you need to go to Advanced and choose Show Preview Packages, because Pixel Perfect isn't 100% ready yet. So Orkin, what I'm trying to do is keep things a little bit separate, so the player is still one unit. The player here, I could take this player and put them anywhere, but I thought it was confusing to have the hitbox, this box collider 2D that's a trigger, be part of the main player that has another box collider 2D that isn't a trigger. It can be confusing as to know which is which. I'm putting the movement in its own component so that that can be separate as well. That way we can make prefabs out of specific things, and we can use those prefabs on other objects, if that makes sense. Alright, so player movement is going to inherit from movement. And the player's movement is going to take the input and then call move on a fixed update. So I'm going to create an empty vector, just like I did in the regular one. So this is just going to be private vector2. I'm just going to call it temp move. I don't remember what I called it in the other one. And I'm going to say temp move.x is equal to input.get axis raw horizontal. Temp move.y is equal to input.get axis raw vertical. And then let's also create a variable for the player speed. Private float speed. And then we'll call move. Temp move speed. Alright, cool. Rodrigo, you're absolutely right, and that's how Pokemon does it too. Because you can just check to see where the player is moving towards, and if they're moving towards something that is in the collision matrix, then just don't let them move there. Alright, cool. So let's save this back into Unity. I'm going to switch out the movement script with player movement. And rigid body 2D is the players, and I'm going to set the speed to, say, 4. And let's see if I broke anything here. Cool. I wonder... We shouldn't see too much of a hit if I just change this to update, because it looked like it was stuttering just a tiny bit, but maybe that's just me. Let's save and go back in here. Looks about the same. I'm gonna leave it in update. Okay, so let's do animation now. So I'm going to create an Animator component on the player. And I'm gonna go full component here. I'm going to create an animation controller object. And this is going to get from generic components. We're going to create a new C# script. We're going to call this Animator controller. Ever have a problem? So Edsman Shaw says, ever have a problem when your player sprite is behind a prop sprite? Is there an easy way to modify the alpha of the sprite of the player to show the player behind it? Yeah, there's a few different ways you can do that. Okay, so let's say that you have, let me just grab a random sprite here. I think I went for background elements. I don't know, this is just a random one. So let's go with waterfall. Let's make this 16, 32, none, apply. So if we pull out the waterfall sprite here and we put it there, we want point no filter. Cool. Now let's say that the waterfall is in front of the player, so I'm just going to put it order and layer as 1. There's a few different ways that you can make it so that you can see the player behind it. One, if you go to your player, I'm going to add a new empty object. This is going to have a sprite renderer. I'm doing this super fast here. And for the sprite, I'm going to give it, let's give it the arrow sprite here. And let's make this 16. Point no filter, none, 32, apply. So if I give it this arrow sprite here, just like I have it, what I want to do is make this a mask. Oh, this needs not to be a sprite renderer, but a sprite mask rather, sorry. Let me remove this. And then arrow. Now for the waterfall, the thing that I want the player to be visible behind, I'm going to make it visible outside the mask. So now all of a sudden you can see the player. So if I hit play, hello Kelly, how are you? So you see as the player goes behind it. And you can make that as simple as just like a little circle. But now the player is visible behind, so you can see them. And you can double down on this if I duplicate this object and make this so that it doesn't have any mask interaction, and make its alpha like that. And that way when your player goes behind it, it's not quite so sharp. It looks like you're seeing through the object. So, yeah. All right, let me delete both of these, and I'm gonna delete that object. All right, so the animation controller is gonna get an animator controller. Good to hear it, Kelly. And the animator controller I'm gonna open up in Visual Studio. So this needs to know an animator that it's using. And then we're going to create a few different functions here. We're going to do public void. Let's do update anim float. And then we need to know what float it is and what. So we'll do string float name, float value, and then this is going to be updating our animator. And then let's also do, let's see, update anim bool. And this is going to need to know string bool name, bool value. So this way I can use the same animator component for both the player and all of the enemies and anything else that might need to have 4 directional movement like the NPCs. Evan, no worries. Killa Tundon, what's the issue there? And Marco Friend, sorry, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name, says hi, thanks for your whole series, learned a lot from you. Thanks, man, glad to hear it. Alright, so what these are going to do is check to see if the anim exists, to make sure there's no null reference error, and then we're going to say anim.setFloat, and we're going to use the float name, float value, and then something similar for the bool, only it's going to be set bool. So anim.setBool, bool name, bool value. I should probably do a similar check on the player movement. Sorry, on the movement. So if my rigid body, so if we actually assign the rigid body, that way we're protecting against null references. Yeah, Kilotendon, I'm going pretty fast here, so if you guys want to watch it again, like, it's totally fine, I'll be saving it. Marco says, if I built the game as a WebGL, scriptable objects are useless for saving states of the chest and other stuff. Do you have any suggestions? Good question, Marco. Let me think about that. I actually didn't think about building it for WebGL. Although you should still have the persistent data path still exists for WebGL. Huh, I'll have to think about that. Kilotunded serialized field makes it so that you can set it in the inspector, but it keeps the variable private so it can't be modified by outside objects. So long as it's system serializable, Marco, I would think that it still works for WebGL. But you're saying it doesn't, so that means you've tried it. So I'll have to, I don't know, I'll have to look myself. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, so save the change to movement. All right, so animator controller needs to know the animator. And then I'm going to make it so that the player movement also needs to know the animator controller. So this is going to need to have a serialized field, animator controller. I'm just going to call it anim. Marco says, for now I can save scriptable objects as JSON objects and save in local storage. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we were doing. But you don't have to save it in local storage, so the persistent data path should still be active even if it's WebGL. Or maybe I'm misunderstanding you. Okay, so now I'm actually going to make this its own thing. Update animation and move. I'm going to cut this from here. Paste this there. Heads fun. Yeah, sure. Go ahead. No worries, man. Retronaut says, yep, serialize field. Okay. Alright, so I want to do if temp move is not equal to vector 3 dot. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do if dot magnitude greater than 0f. I think I want to use an epsilon here. Let's leave it as 0f for a second because I need to look up how to do epsilon because I forgot. So temp move dot magnitude, meaning if we're moving, then we want to do anim dot set. Did I make these public? Yeah, update animable. I want to update moving to true. Else update animable, moving to false. And then I also want to set the floats. So actually, let's only do that if we're moving. That way I don't have to use that last move stuff I was doing before. So anim dot update anim float move x to be temp move dot x. To be move y. And let's actually make this even better. Let's round it to the nearest integer value, and then that way we don't have that weird diagonal movement triggers two different animations thing that I had to solve later in the series. Are you gonna EM? Emo anime lover, I don't know what that means. Kilotendant, that's all that matters. If it works, it works. It's not wrong if it works. Give us the sprites. You can find the sprites at itch.io. Just go to itch.io and search for superpowers. They're part of the superpowers asset packs. So like if you go to download, it has a suggested donation. And the mega asset pack is what you want. They're all Creative Commons 0, which means that you can use it for whatever you want to. You can follow the artists on Twitter; they're pretty cool. I forget his name. All right, cool. Yeah, it's okay if you're not efficient when you start. You get better. Alright, so then update is going to call update animation and move. Alright, so there we go. Now if I go back here, let's actually make those animations now. Animator can stay up there. Dock animation down here. And Let's create a new folder. We're gonna call this animation. Player. And let's call this one idle down. And characters. Idle up. Idle left. And idle right. Cool. Pardon me. I'm sure my chair is super squeaky. Okay, now let's make the movement ones too. So move down. Actually, let's not do that. Let's do 0, 4, 8, and 12. I want these to take, and then I'm gonna re-add, yeah, I'm gonna re-add 12 here. That's not too bad. Another thing I saw you doing that I don't do is set pixels per unit. What purpose is that done, and is it necessary? Mine are 100 by default. Yeah, Unity's default when you import art is to put it at 100. By making it 16 by 16, this entire art pack was built with the idea that everything is 16 pixels by 16 pixels. So if you go into like the background elements here, the tile set, I just open this in pictures. Every one of these tiles is 16 pixels by 16 pixels. So it makes it way, way easier to lay stuff out if you make sure that Unity thinks that that's a unit. So the Unity thinks that 16 by 16 pixels fits in one Unity unit. It makes the math just so much easier. All right, so move up, back to characters. So I want 1, 5, 9, and 13. And then I want 13 again. George PW says, my top-down game sprites seem to shake slightly when the camera moves. There absolutely is. So depending on where you are in the tutorial series, one thing, if you're having your camera follow your player with like a delay, to make it more smooth, make sure that the camera's movement code is in late update or fixed update, so that it's always going after the player's movement executes. Otherwise, the camera will move, but then the player will move, and it'll make it look like it's jitter. Bobby, no worries. So Bobby1 asks why I'm reworking the series. I'm making a Udemy tutorial, and I figured since I would have to go back through and look at everything to re-record for Udemy anyway, I might as well do it on stream. And I mean, everything I'm doing now is going to eventually be in the YouTube version after the refactor, but I don't know. Since I was going to work on this today anyway, I might as well do it on stream. Mohammed, hello, how are you? Okay, so move up. Cool. And I think the next one should be move left. And this is going to be 2, 6, 10, and 14. And then re-add 14. Oh, nope. Didn't mean to do that. Cool. And now move right. this is going to be 3, 7, 11, and 15. And then re-add 15. Cool. Emo anime lover. So if you can't find it here, there's a GitHub link for it too. So if you go to here, I'll even put this link in the description. So let's copy that. Let's go to the control room. Let's do superpowers, assets, link. There you go. So now it's in the description too. All right, so walking right, we're good. Now let's go to our animator, player. Let's get rid of all of these. And let's put this tab back up here so I have more room. All right, so we're going to create a new state from a blend tree. I'm going to call this, oh man, does this bother anybody else? This is at an angle, still at an angle. Ugh, bugs the heck out of me. We're going to call this idle, and we're going to make another one. We're going to call this walking. And then we're going to connect to Bobby1. Yeah, when I'm done with it, I'll put up a coupon code and everything. George, glad to know it fixed it. Joshua, yep, I just put a link to the sprites in the description. And Mohammed, good to see you're doing well. All right, so parameters, let's add a float for move x. Let's add another one for move y. And let's add a Boolean value for moving. And then let's connect these. No exit time, no duration, no fixed duration, no exit time. Only if moving is true. And then from here to here, no duration, no exit time, no fixed duration, no exit time. Only if moving is false. I think I forgot to do something here. In player movement. Oh, yeah. Nope, no, I did it. Hey, look at that. Okay, cool. So let's go into idle. Let's make this 2D simple directional. We're going to use move X and move Y. We're going to add a new motion field. Animation player. Am I in the idle one? Yeah. So let's do idle down. Idle left. Idle right. Oops. Idle up. And I'm actually going to make 4 more here so that there's 8, but I'll explain that in a second. So down is for 0, -1. Left is for -1, 0. Right is for 1, 0. And up is for 0, 1. So the issue that I need to fix is for these corners here. It needs to know which one it should be. And I'm going to follow kind of a standard. I'll use a standard. So like down is going to be here, right is going to be here, up is going to be here, and left is going to be here. So I'm going to add 4 more motion fields. So down is going to be when it's at 1, -1. And right is going to be when it's at 1, 1. And up is going to be when it's at -1, 1. And last one, left, is going to be when it's at -1, -1. Cool. Now, if I move this around, you can see down here, let's put it in 2D, where our little duder should be. Okay, checking the chat here. Kilotundant, I used speed for when I was moving with WASD, but when I did for mouse movement, I didn't. I also didn't use .normalized. It's not necessarily a problem, but you'll notice that if you're moving diagonally, the length of the vector is longer than it is if you're moving in one of the cardinal directions, which makes diagonal movement look faster. .normalized is there to make it so that the length of your vector is always 1. FlipX is just like if you were doing a platformer, one easy way to have your player move left versus right, or look like they're moving left versus right, is just to do sprite.flipx. I do have a Discord. There's a link to it in my videos. I don't have a link ready right now. Otherwise, I'd drop it in the description. Let's go back to the base layer. Let's do the same thing for walking. So 2D simple directional based on move X and move Y. So we want move down, move left, move right, move up. So down is 0, -1, left is -1, 0, right is 1, 0, up is 0, 1. And then I want to do those 4 corners again. So let's start with down. So move down is going to be at 1, -1. Let's move left is going to be at -1. Wait, move left is going to be at -1, -1, I think. Yeah. And then move right, it's going to be at 1, 1. And last but not least, move up is going to be at -1, 1. Cool. Now if I hit play, you can see how it's going to look. Cool. Sorry, but I missed how you access this blend tree thing. Show me again at your convenience. So in the base layer, I just deleted all the animations that were here, and you can make a new state and from a blend tree. A blend tree is typically used in 3D development in order to blend between, like, say, walking and running, so it doesn't look so jarring, but you can use it in 2D development too. So just create a new blend tree. I called it idle, and then when you double click on it, it brings you here. Highlight the blend tree, tell it what kind you want and what you want your parameters to be. Alright, so let's go back to our scene here, and I think everything should work. Nope, super doesn't. Object not set to a reference of an object. Oh, it's because the player movement doesn't know what the animator controller is. So there we go. We got our little player moving around. Nice. Oh, okay. Face up or face down animations, so they just move up and down, facing left or right. Roger Moore, yeah, it'll be on my channel to watch after I'm done with it. I accidentally cool. It'll be on my channel. There was a weird thing where I restarted my computer accidentally, so that's a thing. But yeah, Okay, so we've got, let's see, where am I with my list of stuff? Blend tree, collision. Okay, I already did that. Now we need to do attacking. It will be the only thing I'm worried. Killer tendon, I guess I'm not sure what you're asking about. Alright, let's do attacking animations. So let's go to our art and let's pick a weapon for our player to have. And let's actually make that weapon a child. So we'll call this game object weapon. And then I'm going to make a few different children of this. First child I'm going to call Sword. And Sword is going to have a... Oh, not a mask. Sprite renderer. And it's also going to have a box collider 2D. And weapons. Let's go to all here. Multiple 16.256, none, apply, sprite editor. I'm just gonna do automatic on this. There we go. So I'm gonna call this sword. I'm gonna call this one. I'm gonna call this one hammer. I think this one is technically a halberd, if I remember my D&D. This is an axe. I believe this is a sai. And this is a trident. Okay, so Paul, I'm not currently planning on making this tile-based movement like in Pokemon. Mainly because it feels weird for an action game, I think. Outside of the original Zelda, I would say is probably the only exception to that. The game is like a dungeon fighter, but I'm looking platformer, so you can go up and down, my sprites are facing up. Oh, that's fine. It honestly doesn't look that weird if you just use left and right animations for going up and down. It doesn't look that weird. Let's apply these changes. Alright, so my sword is going to have sword. Alright, now let's go to our box collider. Let's actually grab our weapon here. Box collider 2D. Wow. Come on now, don't be like that. There we go. So previously I used an actual hitbox that I manipulated and set active. Now I'm going to, since this has the weapon separate instead of being built into the sprite, I'm just going to use the weapon itself. So I'm going to put this back at 0. Glad to hear I'm helping you, Paul. It's awesome to hear. Alright, cool. So now, let's bring the animation panel back down. Let's make some attack animations. So, characters, 24. So it was 3, 7, 13. Okay. So the first one I'm going to make is attack down. This is going to go in attack down. We're going to get this, but I want this to be something that lasts, say, to here. Now, since this is an animation that's on the player, I can manipulate anything that's a child of the player. So, by default, I'm going to have the weapon be inactive, but when I'm recording here, I'm going to make the weapon active, inactive here, and its position for attacking down is going to be there. And then I'm going to make it like slide back a little bit. It's not too bad. So kill attendant, I do this in the main series. In the main series, if the attack is part of the animation, the way that I did it was by making a, instead of having this be something with a sprite renderer on it, it was just something with a trigger collider. Which reminds me, I need to make sure that this is a trigger. Oh, no, no, no. Not during that. Not during recording. Let's remove that property. There we go. This needs to be a trigger. And weapon by default is inactive. Cool. Alright, nice. Now let's do attack up. Wait, before I do that, okay. No, not your whole player hitbox, kill attendant. You can make a separate hitbox that just covers where your player would go. So like in the Zelda one, the player slash goes like that. So I made a hitbox out of not a box, but a polygon collider that I kind of traced out where the sword slash goes. Okay, so it's 0. Okay, so now I want to do attack up. And then this is going to be this sprite to there. I'm going to zoom in a bit here and record at the beginning. We're going to make the weapon active. We're also going to rotate it on the z-axis 180 degrees. It's going to go up here. It's going to stay there until 0.13 when it moves back just a little bit. And then 0.15 it moves all the way back down and becomes inactive. It's not bad. Let's make another one. Attack left. Timothy says, does the trigger work with animation? Yeah, you can animate anything, any property, so long as you're in the recording state. Anything that is so like the animator is part of the parent, the player. If I'm recording an animation, I have this record button on. Any component of any child, even scripts and stuff, can be animated. Anything that's part of a child. So for attack left, we got this sprite here. 0.15. And let's go into record mode. We're going to turn the weapon on. Rotate it on the z-axis by 90 degrees. 270, I mean. I'm going to flip it over here. Oh, wait. See, I just made like a huge mistake here. So let me actually delete these properties. All right. So now, making sure I'm at the beginning, in record, turn the weapon on, and 0015, weapon off. Back to the beginning. Weapon is going to rotate 270 degrees on the z-axis, and change its position to be here. And it's going to stay there until 0013 when I move it back just a little bit. And then 0015, it's moved back all the way. So that's the left attack. Let's create another one for attack right. And this takes this one. 0015. Let's go into record and make sure that we're at the beginning here. Turn the weapon on. 0015, turn the weapon off. 0015 will also rotate this 90 degrees. Change its position to be in the player's hand. 0013 will move it back just a little bit. 0015 will move it back all the way. It doesn't look too bad. All right. Thank you very much. Shellbaldi? Shellabialdi? Sorry. But thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just doing what I can. Alright, so we've got our animations made. Let's go back to our animator here. Base layer. Let's delete these 4. And let's make a new from new blend tree. Let's call this attacking. And let's make a new parameter for it. And let's go from here to here, here to here, and from here to here. So we're always going to go back to idle, but we're going to go from either idle or walking. This has no duration. This happens when attacking is true. This also has no duration. This happens when attacking is true. Then we go back to idle. And this happens when attacking is false. Thank you, Kill Attendant. Alright, so back in here, let's go to animation, player, blend tree. We're going to make this 2D simple directional based on movement. Add a motion field, attack down, add another motion field left, another motion field right, another motion field up. Alright, so this first one here, down, 0, -1. Left should be, I think I'm going to need to change at least one of these. Right should be, and then this is 0, 1. Yeah. See, we're gonna have to fix that so that it's, see how it's exactly where I want it there, or exactly where I want it. Well, I'm gonna have to fix the down animation. Okay, here's why we need those extra 4. 2, 3, 4. So we need one for 1, -1, 1, 1, -1, 1, and -1, -1. So for 1, -1, it's going to be down. For 1, 1, it's going to be right. -1, 1, it's going to be up. And then the last one, it's going to be left. So it's always going to be one of these. It's never going to be this weird in-between place, and that's why I put the round on there. If I go back to animation, I want to look at the attack down, and let's actually lock this down here, go back to the scene view, and let's make sure that we're animating the rotation property. So you have to change it like just a little bit so that Unity knows to watch it, but then I'm going to change it back to 0. There we go. Okay, yeah, kilotendant. You can use either a blend tree or something called substates. So, like, rather than having, 4 animations for this, you could either do a blend tree or a substate, where the substate goes into specific animations based on parameters. That way you're keeping things relatively simple, and it's not a mess of spaghetti in here. All right, so now let's make our attack actually work. So first thing I'm going to do is go to project settings, input, I'm going to add a new axis, 19. I'm going to call this, no, I'm not making the whole Udemy course today. Today I am just practicing for it. I'm only going to be on for like another 15 minutes or so. The Udemy videos will be separate and without me talking to chat. Not that you guys aren't wonderful company. Okay. All right. So we'll call this weapon attack. Positive button I'm going to say is, let's do space. Alt positive is joystick button 1, which is, let's do joystick button 0. And leave the gravity alone. All right, cool. So weapon attack. Now, so the state machine needs to exist somewhere. Let's go full component and make the state machine its own thing. We'll call this state machine, and we'll make a new script, a generic script for a state machine, and then one for specifically for the player. Okay, so let's think here. What are some states that the player and enemies could use? Can use idle, walking, attacking, ability. Those should be fine. So let's do enum, we'll call this general state. So we'll do idle, walking, attacking, ability, let's do stun. Dead. Okay, so now we want to make a reference to that general state, so serialize field, yeah, private general state, my state, and then we'll make a method to change it. Public void change state, general state, new state. So if my state does not equal new state, so if we're not already in that state, then my state equals new state. Oh, wait. So let's make this a public enum then. That's what it is. Alright, cool. So let's save that, and now let's make, in the player scripts, we'll make a player state machine. And then this is going to inherit from general state machine. Thanks, Skill Attendant. Glad I could be of assistance. So this is going to inherit from state machine. Alright, and now state machine is going to get the player state machine script. Good question, Ahmed. So if you actually look at, let's take Link to the Past, or even better, Oracle of Ages or Oracle of Seasons, when you're using an ability, the animation of Link himself doesn't change. The animation for using a sword is the same as using any of the canes in like Oracle of Ages or Oracle of Seasons. The same is true for Link to the Past. When he uses the hook shot, it's the same animation for Link. The only thing that changes is what ability he's using, what sprite appears with him at the end of his hand. So like if we look at this attack animation right here, since I'm using a weapon here, we could have a different weapon active other than the sword. We could have the sword off and have an axe on, and now we've got a different weapon, but we're using the same animation overall. We can create a weapon controller that says which weapon should be active, and that's why I did it this way with the weapon and the sword as a child of that. So now our player can change between the weapons without needing to make another animation for it. The same is true for the ability. The ability would be this animation for the player, but then you'd have like another object here as a child that would be you'd have another object as a child that would be something that holds all of the different items, like a hook shot or the canes or stuff like that, if that makes any sense. No, I was intentionally saying machine like that. I just thought it was funny. Apparently not. Alright, so in our player movement, we've got our update animation and move here. We want to make a reference to the state machine as well. Serialize field, private, state machine. We'll just call it, I don't know. No, not my state, because I use that in state machine. We'll just call it state. So if we're moving, we want to say state.change state to general state dot walking. And if we're not moving, general state dot idle. Now, the reason that we're going to do this is because we're going to check to see if we're not in the attack state, then we're going to allow ourselves to move. So, except then I need to be able to actually check. So let's make a public general state, which state, and then we'll just return my state. That way we don't have to make this public. We're just going to have it return what state we're currently in. So then in here, before we move, actually we can make a part of this. So we can say if state dot which state is not equal to general state dot attacking, then we'll do all the movement stuff and move. Let's end it down here. There we go. So, I guess I can't do that. Yeah, no worries, Ahmed. State dot which state is not equal to general state dot attacking. Can I do is equal to? No, I can't. Okay. So I guess I do need to make that public. So in the state machine, I'll just make this public. So if state dot my state is equal to general state dot idle or general state dot walking. Okay, so we're only allowed to move if we're in the idle or walking state. Then did I forget brackets, Timothy? Was that why it wasn't working the way I wanted it to? And then what about making it a property, Joshua Ennis? Good question. What did I put in my notes here? I left out the state machine entirely in my notes. All right. So that needs to be fixed then. So then let's make a new row. So we'll call this state machine component. So I want to make a little coroutine here really quickly. I forgot brackets for method and if. Yeah, I can do a private get set from the state machine. You're absolutely right, I could. Yeah, I'll go back and do the private get set. I just want to fix something real quickly here. Let's do private enumerator co, and then what I want this to do is nm.update nmbool, attacking to true. Serialize field, private float, attack duration. Thanks, Joshua. It's good to hear. Okay, so the attack duration was 0.25 seconds. I'm just going to set that as the default. And then, so if we're, let's make a, and then in here we want to change the state to state dot change state to general state dot attacking, so that we can't move. General state dot idle, and then if input dot get button down. What did I call that button? Weapon attack. And state.myState is not equal to general state dot attacking. So if we're not already attacking, sorry, I stopped talking there for a second. I just got lost in thought. Then we want to start that coroutine. Okay, cool. So there we go. Yeah, that should be good. Thanks very much. Vashnov? Sorry if I mispronounced that. Thank you very much. Alright, so our state machine gets the player state machine, and then our movement needs to know what the state machine is. The attack duration is 0.25 seconds. So let's see how much I broke this. Player's still moving while attacking, but that weird like sideways animation isn't working, and that's because of that mathf.round. So that's good. Now we just got to make sure that they're not moving. So update animation and move. State.myState. What's happening to the state? Yeah, it's changing to the attacking state, but it's still moving. Oh, that's why. It's because I'm using the velocity. So else then I want to do temp move is equal to vector 2.0, and then I also want to move temp move speed. That's what the problem is. Let's try that now. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. That actually looks pretty good. I like that. Okay. We got a lot done today. So I'm going to be picking this up from here, I don't know, probably next week. I'm going to be streaming again tomorrow, but tomorrow I'm going to be doing some Godot development on my own personal project, which is a puzzle game that I haven't had a chance to look at in a long time. So if you want to see that, go ahead and drop by. Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be looking at some of Unity's Learn tutorials. So Unity has put out some Learn tutorials, one for an RPG and one for, they actually did two for an RPG, and I'm going to look at the short one on Thursday and the long one on Friday. So stop by if you want to, probably pretty much the same time. One, I haven't actually created the Udemy course yet. That's what I'm working through right now. So at the moment, you can't find me on Udemy. So Johan, what I would do first with your problem is make sure that in the Animator, first of all, in the blend tree, make sure that you're using the move down here. And then if you are doing that, then I would look at the actual move down animation and make sure that it's the correct animation. That's what I would check first. Okay, so thanks very much, everybody. It was really cool hanging out here. I'll be back again tomorrow, like I said, same time, but tomorrow I'll be doing some Godot stuff, so yeah. I'm gonna call this general. So yeah, I hope everybody has themselves a great day.